So, welcome to the Calcio Potato Podcast, La Prima episode, the first episode.
That's
I'm
right.
Kevin Fogel. What's up?
That's right.
I'm Kevin Fogelsong, lifetime soccer fan, soccer player, soccer coach, soccer trainer. Doing this podcast with my brother Jeff. Jeff, you want to give a little brief intro?
Yeah, I've done some of those things too. I've played, I've coached, training, just only in coaching really, but I mean, you'll be able to tell that we've loved this game and watched it for so long, and recently, I mean, back in the 2000s too, but recently the Italian game, for new reasons, as compared to 2000s, has really taken a hold of our interests. We think it's a dynamic game, and it's not being discussed, at least by English speakers. So we're trying to grow that knowledge base and get a little more respect.
That's right. Everybody we talk to, our friends, players, anybody, it's almost 100% EPL, which, there's a place for that, but they're not getting the respect that they deserve, that they're warranted. And there's a lot of reasons why we believe that the Italian game should be getting more interest, especially from Americans. You kind of touched on their history. In the late 90s, early 2000s, the Serie A was the league with, AC Milan, Juventus, Inter with, R9. All of these legends of the game made their way through the Italian league at some point. Maradona, Ronaldinho, Pirlo, all of these great players, Zidane. And then,
Birds.
yeah. And then with the new Italian game, there's a lot more American interest. There should be a lot more American interest. If we go down the Serie A teams, which Serie A,
right.
there's a lot of American ownership. I'm just going to rattle off real quick. Inter Milan, Atalanta, Fiorentina, Genoa, AC Milan, Roma, Parma, Venezia, and Bologna. Bologna's got a Canadian ownership. And then down in the Serie B, Spezia Calcio has, American ownership. So right there should be more reason to at least dabble in the, come on over to Serie A little bit, American fans.
Yeah, and the English speaking market, like you said, Canada, and there's Brits too that own as well. So yeah, there should be some more like connective tissue there that grows a following and get some more English speaking eyes on it. And like you said, our friends, like, we still play. We're 40. I know you're not quite, but 40 years old and still playing. And the guys that we talk to are largely ignorant, and it's a bit disrespectful. But I understand a little bit of how you like when you go to watch an English game or whatever, you'll get the commentators that English is their first language, so they communicate more effectively. A whole lot of like intricacies that might get overlooked, just because it's their first language. So I think that's a big reason why they turn on. They're used to the same thing. Because you can watch a whole lot and you can get used to a presentation, and then you turn on another league for the first time sometimes, and they just shut it off because it sounds different. And yeah.
So the EPL may be the best league. They might be. There's arguments to be had of which league is the best. Now, statistically, in Europe, the actual best league is the Serie A last season. And then the year before, the Serie A had 3 out of the 4 semifinalists in the Champions League. And they had Fiorentina in the Conference League final, and they had Roma in the Europa League final. So the league is very, very good on paper. But what the EPL is better at than Serie A is marketing. 100% the best league at marketing is the EPL. And that's why everybody knows it. The Serie A does not do a job, and that's why we're here. We're helping to fill that void to
It's a big
bring.
void.
Yes. There's a lot of space. We need a lot of foot soldiers in this fight to bring the attention to the Serie A and to bring it to, like you said, I mean, we're English first speakers that love the game, and there's a void to be had in this space that is Italian calcio.
I wrote down the numbers to put numbers to that void via transfer market website. England, the EPL, the top flight, I don't think it's spending. I think it's value. So like if you go and value all the players, some of their values are going to be like 20 million, and that's almost theoretical in a sense. It's not based on his salary. It's based on what they value. But anyway, the entire English league has double over any other league what their values, their club values and play, which are compromised of their player values composed of. And England is 11.5 billion. Next is Spain, 5.3, Italy 4.9, and Germany 4.4.
Which is funny.
So
The bottom two there are the ones that statistically, the Bundesliga and the Serie A, that were better last year, right? They
right.
get the extra Champions League spot because they were better in Europe.
Yeah,
So
and not even just by a little bit. They performed a lot better and with half the value.
half the
So
value. So there's two things there that I think are bringing those values, that are skewing the values to what we're not seeing on the field. Number one is England doesn't know what they're doing. They have a lot of, I mean, they're not terrible. I want to cushion that a little bit, but they overspend on mediocre players, right? They're overspending. So that's contributing some to overvalue, but also it comes back to the marketing that because this player's at Manchester United, that he's thought of as valuable, but
right.
when you go and you look at somebody that's at, I don't know, Roma, he's not as valuable as a player at Manchester. But if Roma's playing Manchester United, I'm putting money on Roma, like
Certainly.
and it's because they're better. Like,
Yep.
so there's two things working there. They're not as wise with their money. They don't, and I think that it comes down to the Italians having a better understanding of the game. I mean, I remember when we were getting late in the Champions League and they're like, well, who's got the best coaches? And they did, like, it was Spain versus, Italy.
Oh yeah.
And their culture just breathes that. It's not their level of understanding of the game is at a deeper level than their English counterparts. And if you look, who's a great English international coach? What English coach has been great? Like Sir Alex Ferguson, and he's Scottish, right? Like, and then you go down the Italian list. I mean, we can just rattle them off. You can go down the Spanish list. You can rattle them off. German's got a decent list going too. France has a few, right? With Zidane and,
Deschamps.
yeah, there's a few. So anyways, not to beat the dead horse here. That's kind of why we're doing this podcast. To give the Italian game the respect,
Oh
the
yeah.
attention
You
that they
don't need to.
deserve.
The train was rolling. You don't need to slow it down. That was
So,
fine. It was brilliant.
so
I to your point about the English team's spending, that I mean, it's obvious. Anyone can see it, right? Like just look at Chelsea, but then people could perhaps pick on me for just picking on Chelsea, but that has been the case. But I do remember seeing, so I wanted to make the point, because we are fair here. We do have our, if you want to call it a bias, but we have our reasons for backing it up. But out of fairness, the English league brought in the most money this time around. So, the highest sales.
sure.
And yeah, I mean, a big deal is like Mbappe went on a free, whereas Julian Alvarez to Atleti from City was 100, basically 75. So there's some reasons, but yeah,
Yeah,
they did good this time around. Maybe they'll do something better with their money than getting guys on 8-year-long contracts with just a ridiculous amount of money for the Mikhailo Mudriks of the world that, yeah, they play at Shakhtar Donetsk, but I mean,
right. Hey,
like, it
speaking of
doesn't really
money,
translate. It's just crazy.
the Italian team won me a little bit of money last week when they played France. I I saw that the Italian team was disrespected. I saw the odds. I
Yeah.
saw that they were not given a fair shake, and I put some money on the Italian team to go into Paris and get the result, get the win. Actually, I did a draw no bet. Um, we are small time bettors. We will talk about betting from here and there, but um, anything we say about betting is we're just two guys. We're not, don't take our, don't go selling your house or putting a mortgage on your house to put money on Inter Milan to win the Champions League or anything like that. But yeah, I saw because of Inter Milan, because they are one of the best teams in the world.
Easily.
They've lost 2 games in last season, and the year before they made it to the Champions League final and arguably should have beat Man City. You look at that Italian squad and their key pieces come from Inter Milan. So it should translate over to the national team. And it wasn't quite doing it with Spalletti through the Euros. Um, but I saw that the pieces were there, and I took the risk and I took Italy, and man, I'm glad I did. I mean, maybe not after the 13 seconds when, before Donnarumma can put his gloves on, Di Lorenzo makes a massive error in the back, hands France the first goal with 13 seconds. And at that point, I mean, people are thinking route, right? People are thinking the French route. But man, after Italy settled in after the first 10 minutes, they thumped France. I don't remember France ever getting beat so bad ever after, since watching them since the late 90s. That was a beatdown.
Yeah. Yeah. The score even, like, thankfully backed it up a little bit too, because yeah, it was merciless. And that wasn't just a throwaway point about how Donnarumma, you weren't being hyperbolic. Donnarumma was like literally putting his gloves on. Say what you want about, preparedness, and yeah, he should have had them on, but we talked about it before, yesterday, whatnot, how it looked like Di Lorenzo picked his head up and saw something and hesitated, and then he went to kick, and Barcola had already, the French winger Bradley Barcola of PSG, picked his pocket and just ran through and scored immediately.
And then it was a little bit back and forth. I remember we were watching the game together and I said, well, this is a back and forth game. This is going to be good. And
Yes.
then man, about 15 minutes, it was all Italy. And it was the Inter Milan style. It was Spalletti. He should have been wearing an Inzaghi mask. He looked like Inzaghi for Inter. Just the only difference is instead of playing that 2 striker up top, they did a single striker with a 10 behind. And I mean, it worked
Yeah,
phenomenally.
Pellegrini.
And yeah, Pellegrini at the 10 in the first half, and then Raspadori came in the second half. And I think
He did better.
yeah, Raspadori did better for sure.
He did better. I still don't. I don't shove off whatever Pellegrini. I think he whips in a very good ball. So I'm kind of mixed in between those two.
For me, it's Raspadori, and I think that's
I
who we'll
know,
see. I think that's who we'll see in Israel, where we're supposed to. We'll get to that game in a little bit, but
based on
yeah,
that performance, yeah, Raspadori.
yeah, and I think that performance versus France. I mean, we could talk about it's never happened, right? 70 years since they came into Paris and won.
Not just Paris, France.
France. So then So then you're looking at like, okay, how'd they do it? Well, they did it with the Inter style, the Inzaghi style, like we said. But now let's break down, let's zoom in even more on this. What Italy has is the best Inter players, right? They have Bastoni, they have Barella, which he wasn't even there. My goodness, can you imagine when he comes back into that midfield?
A
Um,
midfield's important, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think what's more important, as important as the midfield, is having the center backs, the Bastonis, the Calafioris, that can come in and be a six.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
at one point, I wrote it down. They're very interchangeable, right? The left center back will tuck into be the sixth, the regista. I mean, Calafiori was a regista. At one different play on the one single build up, they had 4 different players coming in to being the six. They had Cambiaso, who was a right wing back, coming in and being the six. They had Calafiori doing it. They had, oh, I forget who else was doing it. Probably Ricci was one of them because that's like
Yes.
the spot he was assigned at. I think it was Bastoni was the 4th. So they had their left center back, their center back, and their right wing back all coming into being that pivot in the build out. And it's fluid. It's interchangeable. It's the Inzaghi system, but it's even better because I think Calafiori is the best player. I mean, if I'm making a player to play in that system, if I can go into a
Right.
lab, I'm making Calafiori. Like that's who I'm making.
I agree like 100%. He did it so well. Like I get giddy about how good he was. It was ridiculous. We saw outside the foot passes when like he was being not just like closed and the window was like evaporating closing. He was also like leaning and the ball was moving down the line, but his main mark was blocking down the line, and then he had someone else closing the gap that he split, but he split it with the outside of his foot while he's moving to his right, hitting it with the outside of his left. Just a perfect pass. We saw heel like juggle heel
He
flicks.
spun
You want
it
to say
and
in the
weighted
front?
it so it slowed down too. It's not like he
I
just hit it. Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
And at
He
that
put
point, what
so
part of
many
the field was
things
that? He's on
into
the sideline.
consideration.
He's playing on the sideline there. I
I
mean,
know.
and then we've seen him, we looked up again and he's playing at the 10. He played at the
Yep.
10 for a little bit. Like on the right side of the 10 as a left center back. It's, you can't
Remember that
defend it.
Remember
Like,
that one attack where he stormed up the left, and I can't remember if it was Tonali or Fertesi. It somehow died down, but I mean, had he gotten that ball there too, like it would have been even more noticed. But he had to have, like, the world had to have seen him. Anyone watching that game had to have seen him. And
so
that's
you,
like the player ratings from that game kind of angered me. Like they had it's out of 5. This is if you want to call it like Google ratings. When you like look up, France versus Italy,
yeah,
and
I
the
know what you
game's
mean.
already been over, you'll see the lineup, you'll see
Yep.
numbers 3.4 and stuff like that, and it's a fine margin because it's only out of 5. But yeah, I feel like some of those players were a little bit. That it's not the way I would have rated it. Ricci, DeMarco, like just because Fratesi gets a goal, he gets like the highest rating in the game.
He was
Not
the worst
just because,
midfielder, and
obviously, did a
he
job,
was the
but
worst midfielder for Italy for sure. But let's go back to Calafiori. Like, so to your point on ratings, you got to watch. Like that's the problem, right? People look at these things and they try to look at stats in soccer, and like stats don't tell the whole picture. You got to watch.
yep,
Um, and I mean these are kind of made up stats because they're subjective too. But
yeah,
back to Calafiori, I mean, so you mentioned we mentioned coming inside. You mentioned his, his pure class on being a little bit shifty and outside of the foot, spinning it, weighting it into the middle of the field in the defensive third.
yep,
He can also drive forward with the ball. We saw him drive forward, during that game, which is very, very important, especially within Zaghi's, three man back, having that left center back and right center back drive forward with the ball. He can do that. He can, I mean, defensively, you almost didn't notice him because they couldn't come. I mean, we saw him like pressing players at the top of the box, like just like flying out of there.
Yeah.
That whole side was just locked down. That they did nothing over there. And we're talking about France, who maybe one of probably the most individually talented squads out there, as far as especially like wingers and attacking speed, athleticism. And they did nothing. They did nothing to him. Like, and Bastoni too. I mean, we're talking about, we can move over to Bastoni now, and Calafiori's world class. Like, he's already world class. We don't need to talk about it. We'll see how he can do in England how they utilize him. But when he's utilized in this way, absolutely world class. I don't know if I pick any defender, any defender over him in that role. The best. Like, now Bastoni didn't get beat one time. Not his normal position at playing center back. Usually he's at the left center back for Inter. Played the center back very, very well. We know how good he is at Inter. We know he's world class. Like,
you think this next game, the center back of the three is probably going to have to be Buongiorno, yeah?
Yeah, so Calafiori, if we're going back to Calafiori, he's picked up a little knock. He'll be fine. He's out
when Dembele got tackled or whatever and like flopped over, and his like the heel of his boot, not like the cleat, but like the heel, just came down with a bunch of force, like on Calafiori's calf muscle.
Well, that's Dembele, right? He's so uncoordinated he can't juggle or hit a volley with his left foot, you know. So that's just the Dembele way of falling. But yeah, so he picked up a little knock, precautionary. He's going to be out versus Israel. So when we're watching Israel, that's one of the things I want to see, because if Buongiorno can play the center back,
I think
we know we'll see. That's probably the number one thing I'm looking for this Israel game. Of course,
definitely.
we need to get the result. But we know Bastoni can play the left center back. We've seen it. Every day at Inter, he's doing it. Calafiori, I think, can play on the right center back, because Di Lorenzo had a pooper, not just the mistake in the air that we talked about. He looked shaky throughout. If Calafiori
with the ball, remember he had a very good block. If you want to call it block, super tight man marking at near post.
Fair. Yep, inside the six. I remember.
My God, that was a important block tackle, whatever you want to call it.
But I'm thinking Calafiori is so well-rounded, he can just play the right. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, he's left-footed, but he's going to be in the middle of the field anyways on the right center back, because he's going to be at the pivot. So
him and Ricci, I think they have eyes just somewhere else on their head, because, it ain't going to matter if he's on the left or the right, I don't think.
Right. So I think if Buongiorno can do the job, and he's got the characteristics, I think, to do it, right? He's more stationary than than being on the outside, the left or the right center back. So I think he can kind of be the stone to hold down the middle, at least till Scalvini's back, because I think Scalvini might be better on the right, but he's out for months.
I need to see more of him, and so does the entire world at this point, because he's been out and is going to be out. So,
right, and then you're going to have injuries. So if you can have four players to do this, the Italian team, we should start talking about them with at least the likes of Portugal and these other these other countries that can win the World Cup, that can compete to win the World Cup. I think if Buongiorno can do it, I'm there. I'm ready to say that, because that fixes, that back three is just extremely solid. And we know what we're getting out of the midfield with, Barella. That's, again, if I'm making a midfielder to play this system,
I know
I'm probably in a lab creating Barella, right?
Yeah. Him or Modric.
And right. And then when you're going to create a left wing back, you're gonna create DeMarco.
DeMarco, Roberto Carlos.
And let's talk about this French game. Because DeMarco had a golazo in it.
Yeah, sure did.
Wing back from Cambiasso, who also had a very good game, who, when you're creating a right wing back in this system, it's probably going to look something like Cambiasso as well. So He hits a cross field, to DeMarco. DeMarco one times it with the inside of his foot, to Tonali, who's advanced. And actually when the ball is switched, Tonali is at the back line. He is at the French back line. And you can see him checking his shoulders, seeing where the French right back is, seeing where DeMarco is when that ball is being hit, before the ball is being hit, as it's being hit. He looks, he sees that it's to DeMarco. He knows what's going to happen with the French defense. So instead of running away and running to goal like most would, Tonali makes the ingenious stop and turn and come back and giving DeMarco that one time.
The 1-2, yep.
The 1-2. And then when Tonali steps up, they step to him and it flicks over the top with the outside of his foot, maybe towards the heel a little bit, right in stride to DeMarco. Ooh, my goodness. If there's anybody that can smash a left-footed volley, it's DeMarco, right?
I
And
know.
he smashes his side net, and it's awesome. It's amazing football, amazing calcio. One time, smash and grab, tied it level, and at that point, it's Italy's gonna win the game. It's 1-1, and it's over. It's over at 1-1.
Yeah, they couldn't stop that play. Once Cambiaso hit that the crossfield ball, the way he hit it with all that pace, it like dug into the ground like it was diving, and it was probably about head height at Tonali's distance, and then by the time it got to, did it bounce? Probably.
I think it's short hop. I think DeMarco took it on a short hop.
Okay. And that's probably why it came up a little bit at Tonali and was about knee thigh height, where he had to lift his leg and outside the foot, kind of almost heel direct it behind him because it popped up off DeMarco a little bit.
It's a great goal. If you're listening and you haven't seen it, you go find that goal. It's a great goal.
Like once the cross was hit the way it was, and then DeMarco chose to one-time it, and Tonali actually gave him that ability to do that because of his movement, as you pointed out. They weren't going to stop it. Like you have to have like foreknowledge that that's what's going to happen as the guy that's guarding DeMarco, because you're not just going to be a center back and not track out on Tonali, and you're not going to be, the side back and not move
it was already
after a long field ball. Because long field ball, like control, it takes so long that had he controlled it, defender's going to be right on him. But since he didn't even bother controlling it, it was, I think DeMarco has that down really well. You remember that play where it was more like at midfield. He plays it sharp in the midfield, and Calafiore's busting the gut, and it goes behind Calafiore, and it looks like it was a bad pass to him, but it might have been going to Tonali. Who was that? Tonali?
It was Richie. It was Richie coming back. Yeah. So Richie was more advanced than Calafiore at this point when DeMarco gets it on the left flank, and the down the line ball is blocked, so the angle is into the middle. And he hits it it looks like Calafiore, but you're right. It's actually time for Richie, who's coming a half second behind Calafiore, because when that goes to Richie, Calafiore's going to be down the channel. You're going to be playing your left center back in on a through ball. He's going to be 1v1 with the goalie. He's going to be behind the defense.
And as long as the ball isn't overhit, it's a 1v1.
He's a 1v1 with the goalie.
That wasn't even the play that I was talking about earlier with Calafiore busting up the sideline. This was just another opportunity for Calafiore, the center back, to be behind the defense.
Nobody else plays like this. This is everybody needs to watch it because it's so different. This is nothing you're going to see anywhere else other than Inter Milan's, Inzaghi's Inter Milan. This is it.
This is what's great about football. Like the
different style. Yep.
It's, like France almost on a man-to-man basis, has Italy beat on, the physical, attributes, the nature, the physical
sure
abilities, but it's the mind. The mind comes into football so much. So, and it's because you're using your foot, you're not playing with your hands. Your mind matters even more because you can't just like grab it and go. You have to. So
Well,
like your your emotions and your focus, everything has to be dialed in.
and tactically, you got to put your best players in the best positions, and this is what Italy has that's unique because they have Bastoni and Calafiori. They're able to do that. We've talked about that. Let's talk about the midfield because you mentioned the midfield was very, very key. We talked a little bit about all three of them that actually played in the midfield. Actually, they kind of had four because of the 10 is the diamond. So they almost had a diamond midfield with Ricci at the regista, the 6, the pivot. And then they had, Tonali and Fratesi. And then in front of them was, Raspadori and Pellegrini in the first half. Um, the biggest thing to be happy about as Italian fans, the biggest thing to be hopeful for, excited about. We knew what Fratesi is, box to box, arriving into the box at great timings. I mean, he could have had 3 goals that game. We knew what Tonali was. He's been out a year with his gambling, suspension. Somebody
Wait,
said
what did
that,
he bet on again?
I don't know, but somebody said that, he made a bet on the money line for Italy that game because he was
Oh,
great. He was phenomenal that game. Um, Driving with the ball. I mean, we knew who he was. I mean, maybe Newcastle's not going to get the best out of him.
I
The
thought I
talent,
heard what he bet on. I thought he bet on like tackles, how many tackles he would get, or yellow cards or something, right? Or was
I,
that Paqueta? That was Paqueta. Never mind, that was Lucas Paqueta, the Brazilian.
but their midfield, we knew who Tonali was. It's been a year, but we know who he is. It might not come through at Newcastle, but he is that downhill dribble. I mean, he looked like Kaká against France. He was amazing. And then you go to Samuel Ricci, Samuele. There's an E at the end of that
Samuele.
one. Yes. Italianize that Samuel. And
Yeah.
he
Samuele?
was,
Yeah.
he was amazing. He was out of this world. Like, he made one error the entire game, one error, and it was under hitting a long ball.
Kicking
Um,
power. Kicking power,
yes.
yep.
And I mean, other than that, he was in the box against France in his own defensive box and just like, what do you take, 6, 7, 8 touches there?
Yeah,
No,
checking over his shoulder, turning the
no
guy
worries at
different
all. Like,
directions.
balls on his foot. Like, nobody's getting it from him. They're not getting it
Yeah.
from him. You might as well give up. Um,
Yeah,
he's a
ridiculously good on
Jorginho.
that.
He's a Jorginho with mobility
Yep.
is what he is. There was a play to where if they had Jorginho, it was on the right side and it came to him and if it was Jorginho, it would have just, he would have opened up his hip and he would have went the other way. Well,
Yep.
instead, Samuel Ritchie, he goes the short side of the field where the numbers aren't on his way, but he saw an out that he took and he made it. He cut through the defenders, came back inside, played it through, split the defenders in a tight area, and it was awesome. I mean, Jorginho cannot do that. This is the man they need in that midfield. And like we said, when they get Varela in, it's a whole nother level because now you're going to bring Fratesi in just like at Inter Milan. Fratesi's going to be the I forget what they call him. He's not a bench player. He's not a
Substitute.
sub. He's not a sub. He's gonna come in. He's like a secondary starter is what they call it. Like, he's gonna
Okay.
come in, he's gonna play big minutes, and he's gonna have a big role. And I think
Yeah.
he's gonna have the similar role against Italy or for Italy. And I mean, you see why. I mean, could he have had 3 goals? Yes. But he was there in the position with
Yeah.
the hard running to get there. He's the classic box to box. I mean, he's Frank Lampard running in late.
One of them was a header too, and I would say just from looking at him, he's not a header of a ball.
Oh, he can head the ball good. I think the header was made, Mignon was coming over pretty good and he was trying to put it right in the top
I
to
know,
carry
and
it.
if you watch the chance, he had to, or at least chose to, um, create a lot of the power with the head, the neck. He he had to add power to it. So it's not like it was just a simple thing. But I just wanted to point out that you spoke earlier, how a lot of the big players are the Inter Milan players, but we spoke earlier about Buongiorno. If you want to watch more of him, you can find him at Napoli. He got to move to Napoli this year, who's just been losing center backs. They lost Kim to Munich, and Ostegard got to move out, and they brought in Buongiorno, which I was a pretty big fan of Ostegard, but Buongiorno has won me over in this one brief appearance already. I'm kind of a player profiler. I like to look at people, and I get a very good judge of them pretty instantly, which is why I'm so big on Ricci, why I'm so big on Calafiore, because I mean, it kind of feels like he's been doing it for a little while now because of the Euros, but to my knowledge, not to my knowledge, but my knowledge of him is still pretty short lived. But so yeah, Buongiorno at Napoli and Ricci is at Torino. I would just have to doubt that they aren't going to play let's just call it Italian football. You used to call Italian football in 2006 to 2010 a pragmatic keep the score low and try to nick a 1-0, you know. Now it's total football 2024, you know. It's as big as what Netherlands did in the 70s to reinventing what it means to be a player on their pitch, you know, what it means to be this role, because guess what? That role, you're not just a center back. You are, if you're Calafiore, you're definitely not just a center back. You're moving into the midfield and looking for the ball and looking at the field around you better than I've seen midfielders, crazy midfielders do. And you're a center back. So you said the word earlier, interchangeable. It is that,
Let's
to a
tie a bow.
T.
Let's tie a bow on this Italy Nations League window. They go to France, or sorry, they went to France, smoked them. They go to Israel. They got a few more knocks. We mentioned Varela with the nose. Fertesi pulled out a little early with the muscle injury. I don't know if he's going to be taking part. Calafiore's back in London with Arsenal, so he's out. We mentioned a couple things. Buongiorno, we brought up looking at him at the center back.
Certainly.
And then we want to see if Samuel Ricci, yeah, I'm going to be struggling with that name,
Yeah.
is going to be, I got to study more Italian. He's going to be, let's see if he can repeat that performance.
Also, Gatti might come in.
Gatti might be the right back. Yeah, Gatti might be the right back. I've seen that. So we'll see. The ones I'm going to be looking at, because maybe if Buongiorno is not the answer at the center back, which I think he is, maybe Gatti's the answer on the right, and Bastoni's proved that he can play in the middle, and then Calafiore's on the left.
Right.
But those are the things we're looking at versus Israel. So let's
wait till Scalvini's back, you know?
wait till Barella. I mean, yeah, but there's this Italian teams can play. Let's jump over to the domestic league, the Serie A, and
I
talk
think, well,
through.
before that, I would like to add to your tying the bow on the France-Italy game. You spoke about the beginning. They just came out and, bloodied a nose immediately. But then it was dominance. There was a time after players had played 70 minutes, have gotten knocks, have been subbed, where France turned it on. And I think that is due only to the fact that it was 3-1 and there were injuries and subs, and France and Italy already had it in the bag. Do you want to speak to the performance in those moments, or just say that
No, they
they
made some moves.
withstood and defended well?
They made some moves, and it was clear that they made the moves, like you said. I mean, Calafiore, they were forced to make the move. And Frattesi, of course, as well. But, I mean, at that point, Keane was just not playing any football at all, and was just At one point, we're like, he's got 6 touches with 3 minutes of possession because he was just putting his butt into it, and his stride was 2 yards apart, and just hammered down and battled.
He was in for 2 minutes and looked more tired than people that were in the whole
He was wrestling
because he just had the ball between his legs and was just fighting.
He was in a wrestling match, but they slid DeMarco out of his position and kind of slid him into the midfield a little bit. They changed their formation up around. They just saw the game out, right? At that point, they just saw the game out. So I don't want to. Yeah, and they did it. They did it. They didn't give it. They didn't give. There was no like clear cut chance for France to even score. Did they get a couple shots? Yeah, but none of them were good looks. So I don't think we need to jump into that. I mean, they saw the game out. They did what they needed to do, and it was fine.
Yep.
So to the Serie A.
Bella.
Yes. Bellissimo.
Yeah.
Serie A, again, the top league statistically last year, the year before, 3 out of 4 semifinalists, Europa League finalists, Conference League finalists. Last year they had the Europa League finalist and the Conference League finalist. In fact, Atalanta beat Leverkusen, the only defeat Leverkusen had to lift the Europa League, championship. They got the extra spot from finishing top in Europe, the best, country in Europe. So they get the extra Champions League spot. So they have 5 Champions League teams. Roma isn't going to be in the Europa League with, Lazio.
Does Germany only have 4?
No, Germany got the extra spot as well. We have 5.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to talk too much about the Champions League. We're going to do a different episode on that. But just wanted to give the overall picture of the Serie A when you have Napoli finishing out of Europe and a club like that big, not even in Europe. It just speaks to the depth of the league between I mean, I'd have to look again. Did they finish 9th place? 9th place?
Right. I think it's actually great, like, that they're not in Europe. Don't get me wrong. I love Napoli and Kvara and Osimhen's on his way out, but Lukaku, Anguissa, Lobotka, there's so many players. Sorry, I dropped my phone there. But, I'm actually glad that they're out because, this isn't FIFA. What matters most is the manager, which is why Spalletti in Italy, but they lost Spalletti to the Italian national team job. So there's going to be a period where they have to, earn their stripes back again.
Yeah, let's get to Napoli a little bit later because they did get a new manager. Let's start at the top. Who's your top team? I think everybody could agree on this. Inter Milan. Inter, phenomenal team. Obviously, we talked about their championship run, almost championship run to the Champions League finals, to playing City, and we watched that game, and they were unlucky not to at least tie it and get it to penalties. But the second half, certainly they were all over them. And last season they went undefeated through Champions League, their group. They beat Atletico Madrid in the first leg and should have won by more with Arnautovic missing chance after chance after chance. They go
not an easy team to beat. Not an easy team at all.
Then they go to Madrid and have it pretty well. And then, I mean, they were fighting because, like you said, it's not an easy team to beat, with Simeone's team there, but gave it up late, lost that one late, and then they crash out. And then other than that, they lost to Sassuolo. Like, that's it. That's their season. And we're supposed to believe.
What do you mean lost it late to Atleti?
Lost it late to Atleti, so knocked out of the Champions League game. Knocked out of the Champions League.
It was it like 90 minutes?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember it being late. And you could see it coming. Atletico was pouring it on, but,
yeah.
They lost that game and in the domestic game, Sassuolo. And I mean, we're talking about a team that lost 2 or 3 games all year long. And then the year before that, It's not like Leverkusen where they did it one year. They did it the year before in the Champions League final. And then here we are, and they're not talked about like like they should be.
I
Like they
know.
should be up there with Man City, with Real Madrid.
They weren't in Europa either, like Leverkusen.
Exactly. So their
You know?
year, they should be talked about as having one of the best years last year, and it wasn't their first year of doing
Yeah.
it. So to
Yep.
give them odds in the Champions League that low, again, we're not talking about the Champions League today, but they're the favorite. They've lost nobody. They have the same coach. You know what you're going to get with Inter. It's going to be hard to get the points that they are because I think every other team when we go down here has improved.
In
In
Italy?
Italy,
Yeah.
all the top teams except for Bologna who got picked apart, but the rest of them have improved. So it's going to be hard for them to get the points total that they had, but we've kind of talked about their squad already with the Italian team. Thuram's already banging in goals. He's got 4. They bought Fertese on a full, got him off the loan, got him on their full-time roster.
Yep.
Picked up a backup striker, because we mentioned Onatovic. Yeah,
Taremi.
Taremi. We mentioned Onatovic kind of hurting them there when Thuram went down in the Champions League.
Yeah, Taremi might even be a massive step up, but he should be a considerate step
Right.
up.
So
They added Piotr Zielinski from Napoli to the I would say to the center midfield, but look out for him at the top of the box. He can put in some good balls.
Right. So they're set. We don't need to talk more about them. We watch them because that is that unique Italian style, which I did want to mention, when you mentioned, the total football from Netherlands. There was also another resurgence with, Pep Guardiola and, like the Spanish style. I think if Italy and Inter find success here in the next year or two, and we have, Italy making a Nations League and World Cup run, Inter making winning the Champions League, I think you're going to see people starting to emulate this because it is unique and it's successful.
Yep.
I mean, it's fun to watch and it helps you win games.
It's those two nations, if you ask me. Obviously, things can happen, and even France could go on and win it. Portugal, the Germanys of the world, stuff like that. But man, Italy and Spain, their style, they are going to generate victories in a real reliable way. And Spain, like, it's always been that tiki taka, and they're going to have 80% possession, but now they even sacrifice a little bit of possession because now their risks pay off more when they've got Lamine Yamal and Inaki Williams. So, God, it's going to be it's hard to pick between those two for
Well,
sure.
good thing is we don't have to.
And they both have a very similar like situation too, where you don't look at their nines in shudder and fear in any way, but their team gets the goal.
Yeah, we don't have to
Not their
make those
nine.
picks now. I mean, if you're looking at making a really early pick, I think Italy is a good one to put down a long shot bet on because they're getting long shot odds, and I think they're getting disrespected.
Yeah.
So second place, we got Inter at the first place. Second place, who do you have?
Well, it normally would be AC Milan. I feel like they're in a spot where they have to get so many things figured out and then do the right thing with them. Like it seems like I think his name's Malik Chow. I think they've noticed and they're replacing
They've
him.
already replaced him.
And it's a
Pavlovic
starter.
has replaced him. He's out. Malik Chow.
Right. I think it's that, and then like at striker, Okafor probably is more of a winger than a striker. Morata hasn't even like really played yet, and when he has, it was like, yeah, this is so. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I think, didn't they just lose Benacer?
Benacer's out 3 months.
3 months. Yeah, I would hope that would force their hand into withdrawal of Ruben Loftus-Cheek as the 10.
Well, Loftus-Cheek has been playing the 10 and it's been awful First of all, you talk about player profiles. That's a misuse of player profile. They did get Fofana, however you want to say, the French midfielder who looked awful in that game for France.
Both of those sounded the same. It just sounded like you called it twice.
Fofana. Anyway, he looked terrible in the midfield versus Italy. So if that's supposed to fix AC Milan, that's not gonna be very helpful. Rangers did pick up a goal and an assist for Netherlands in Nations League, and if you're not going to put Pulisic at the 10 for AC Milan, Rangers has to be your man. Rangers has to be the 10 if Pulisic is not going to be. If they're going to put Loftus-Cheek at the 10, they're going to struggle to make it to the Champions League this season.
Yep.
So I don't think I have them too, because right now, who is the 10 and is Loftus-Cheek. So they're not my number 2. Are they your number 2?
AC is not.
AC is not. So who's your 2?
Unless I'm forgetting something, I'm going to say, like, not notes, but you know what I mean, just in my head. If I'm forgetting, I'm gonna say Juve.
Juve's my 2. They brought in Thiago Motta from Bologna, who had a phenomenal season.
The manager, in case you don't know, he did used to play and played very well as a 6, but, that's gotta be why I'm putting them over a lot of teams, because if you've got the right manager that can influence
the manager. So
change
he got Bologna to their first Champions League berth ever, and then everything.
And they got picked
apart, right? They lost Xerxes, Salamakers, Calafiori.
Buongiorno.
Right? Buongiorno.
Oh, no, Calafiore. Where was Buongiorno?
Back to Juve. They, in Thiago Motta, they have been almost on the opposite end of that Bologna with bringing in players, right? Koop Miners from Atalanta, excellent Dutch midfielder, like very, very good pickup. Nico Gonzalez from Fiorentina, very, very good winger 10, hybrid, can play either one. Argentine, very, very good player, very, very good signing. You mentioned Gatti already, Danilo,
Bremer. Yeah.
Douglas Luiz is another new signing they have. They got,
50 million.
50 million. Thuram's brother, a midfielder from Nice.
Kefren.
Yes. Yeah. For the Americans, they do have Weston McKennie and Tim Weah. We are not American homers. We are not saying that they should start. We are not going to be pushing for them to start, because in my opinion, I don't think they should start. I mean, certainly Weston McKennie should not start in the midfield. If he's going to start, he needs to be an outside back, a wing back, something to reinvent himself, because he does not have the quality to play in the Juve midfield. Maybe he has in the past, but Juve has not been Juve in the past. I look for Juve to return to past glory and really, really push the Italian game forward and get the recognition they deserve.
Remember, I think it starts from the back so frequently, and they brought in that Di Gregorio goalkeeper who just looks like he looks the part for me, man.
Correct.
I haven't seen much of him, but God,
I think he can push Donnarumma for the number 1 Italian spot. We'll see. Donnarumma's looked good. He did have that one error in the Euros, but he had a solid Euros and good against France. But yeah, back to Juve. I think they do have a good number 1. And then up top they have Vlahovic, which very deadly left foot, set piece. And man, look for him to be banging in goals left and right. Hasn't yet.
Remember the 10?
The 10, they have Yildiz, the Turkish kid, the wonder kid from Turkey. And then we mentioned Gonzalez can play, Nico Gonzalez can play the 10. He hasn't got in yet, kind of a late deal in the transfer market. I agree with you. They got a new coach and a lot of new players. It might take some time. Douglas Luiz in the midfield. Fagioli, we didn't mention Fagioli. see if he gets some more minutes. He's been out as well. But yeah, exciting team to watch. Exciting team to watch. We'll see how they put it together. They are my number 2. Look for them to make some noise in the Champions League as well. Like I said,
They one other thing, because I was trying to remember who they replaced Chiesa with. Do you remember?
um,
He had an amazing Euros for Portugal. Francisco Conceição,
okay,
the
yep.
winger. He's a kid. He's 20, 21, but God, he had a very good, like, him and Riquelme for Argentina. They're pretty similar. I think Riquelme's he is on Atleti. They're very similar players. And like, maybe like if you are the English speaking guy and you watch a lot of EPL, I would compare him to Garnacho, perhaps. Which often happens with young guys. It's like, how much of this is just like testosterone and, being 20 in the prime of your life and whatever, and being able to fly by guys, versus how much of it is quality and whatnot. And I mean, you're in the right position anyways if you're out on the wing and that's your shtick. But yeah, they picked him up. I think he's going to have a massive year. They even got Polish backup striker Milik, who for me should probably be replacing Lewandowski about 2 years ago. So
They do have a few little knocks. Timoeo is coming back after scoring in week 1. Nico Gonzalez has a little bit of an injury. None of them are long term, so they're look for them. Look for them to turn it around.
do they own Pogba?
And be Juve. Yeah, Pogba ain't coming back anytime soon. I think he's got.
Do they own him?
They own him on a 4-year ban or something. Yeah. Yeah, he's out until September 2027. So, yeah, we don't need to talk about Paul Pogba. Number 3, who you got? All right, so we got Inter at number 1, Juve at number 2. Who you got for 3?
Honestly, this is where it starts to get hard, because like Juve putting them number 2 might be a little hard because it's a little bit unrealized, and I'm really putting faith in Mata. But number 3, I might have to put Roma. I'm sliding more and more towards them and more away from AC, just because of coaching, current results, and like I said, AC Milan really needs to get 3 things right. Chow, no.
They have that right
Loftus
already.
Cheek.
They have that right already. So I don't think they need to get that one right already.
Right. Well, okay, but I think Loftus Cheek at the 10 is so bad, and I think Okafor at the 9, as bad as it is, it's not even going to be, because Morata's going to be the 9. So
Let's
I think they just need to get Loftus Cheek out of
get to
that
AC
10.
Milan next. Let's go Roma. You have Roma 3. I'm going to disagree and put AC Milan 3, but let's talk Roma then. Let's talk Roma then, since you have them 3. What do you like about Roma?
Yeah. So who? Daniele De Rossi first. Is he still
He's their
coaching there?
manager. Yeah, he came in mid-season, turned him around, turned him around in the league, turned him around in Europe. They looked very good after him. Now he's got the off season, and they were busy in the off season.
And that's why I like him, because what they picked up. Dovvik at the 9 is, I love a striker. I love a real 9. Again, I said it earlier, I'm a player profiler. There's guys that are playing in the right spot, and there's guys that are playing in the wrong spot, like Loftus-Cheek.
Let's not say they didn't have a 9, though. They had Lukaku last season. So, I mean, you can make fun of Lukaku for all you want. He's had some big gaffes, including for Inter Milan versus Man City. But he was a 9, right?
Yeah, no, I know. And perhaps bigger than them having and losing Lukaku is they got rid of their backup, too. Tammy Abraham, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, but they replaced the backup with someone that I love too, Eldor Shomerdan.
Correct.
So,
It's funny that you bring up the strikers.
No, I'm big on Roma.
It's funny you bring up the strikers, because I know maybe your favorite player currently is they brought in on a free right as it was after the transfer window. A guy that turned down lots of clubs, including Leverkusen, Mats Hummels. Mats Hummels is on a short list on the short list of Ballon d'Or, and they brought him in for free, to shore up the back line. It was a phenomenal piece of business there from Roma.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, obviously Roma gets some credit, but I mean, when you're Mats Hummels, I think he picked, which is why he turned down Leverkusen. He picked Roma.
Which is funny.
For the reasons I'm picking Roma.
So he turned down Champions League football to go play for the Europa League. And then almost the same day they got Hermosa. Center back. So they have 4 center backs. And then
they got Ndika.
We mentioned outside wing backs. Angelino at the left wing back is great. He's been around for a while now. You might remember him from Leipzig. You mentioned Pellegrini.
He played at City. He played at City a year or two.
Yes.
Then I think he might have gone to Turkey.
They got Salamakers from kind of AC Milan, but he was on loan at Bologna last year. Good outside player. Sula, another player from Juve. Pellegrini, we mentioned. Paredes, you would know Paredes, if you watch, world football. You're from Argentina. From PSG, you might remember him there. Cristante, midfielder. So Roma, I almost picked Roma 3, and I agree. I think they're going to be a favorite to win Europa League. In fact, if you're looking at the odds, I think they were plus 900 last I looked. Might be one you want to
plus 900.
I think so. Yes.
Jeez.
So
give me that every day of the week.
Right. So that's your Roma squad. Anything else to add there?
Yes. So perhaps Spinazzola was there. Where is Spinazzola?
Spinazzola went to Napoli.
He went to Napoli. So they picked up Spinazzola and Buongiorno in the same.
So on the left side, Roma has El Shaarawy,
and Angelino behind him.
Yeah, and Angelino, and then Salamakers can play on the left as well. So, they're pretty.
Oh, Salamakers can play everywhere.
Yes, he's very versatile. He's very versatile.
Who they got in goal? I'm trying to check them out right now.
Goalie they.
Svilar.
No, yep. So that's Roma. So let's
Mancini at center back.
Yeah, Mancini's another center back we didn't mention. We might see him in that Italian back 3 at some point as well. He's cleaned up his game quite a bit. He actually had a pretty good end of the season since De Rossi came in.
I don't know if you mentioned Pellegrini and Dybala, but
Dybala. How do we not mention Dybala? Yes, Dybala is Roma's best player. Dybala is Roma's best player, and maybe because Hummels is 39 years old or whatever. but no, Dybala is. Yeah, I don't know how we don't mention he's a 10. He can play on the wing.
He's a spry 35, in case you were wondering. 35. But I think him going to Roma, even though they're only in Europa, to me screams he's going to be there for 2 years. It's a 1-year
deal, but yeah, I think it's almost a trial. I think you might be right. He might love the project that they have so much and believe in it so much that you're right. It's they can make a run at the league. They've already, before some of these signings came in, they tied Juve, which they didn't have their signings either, to a 0-0 game. It is a little bit weird to doing predictions so late, but it's also hard to do predictions before the window closes and you see the totality of the squad. But Roma at 3, good call on the Dybala. I'm glad you circled back to that one because he's key. So number 4. Then,
do you know who has the most points in the league right now?
Inter's at the top. I can pull up the table again. Inter's at the top. They did drop points the first game they tied, which Serie A, it is not like EPL where Man City's not going to drop points to Luton or whatever. Inter, when they lost to Sassuolo, who was easily relegated. And if you want to look at the table from last year, it was tight all the way down through. So Inter won the league, and then there was a race for Champions League, and then there was a race for Europa League, all the way down to the middle of the table to the 10th, to the last week. And then the relegation had, I believe, 8 teams all the way up into the last couple weeks that could be relegated. So it is stacked top to bottom. I mean, of course, a team like Parma is not going to challenge the win, but they can challenge to be a mid-table team coming up from the Serie B last season. So at the top of the table right now is Inter, tied with 7 with Juve, Torino, Udinese, Verona at 6, and Napoli at 6. So right there in the current top 6, you have a couple teams that arguably are going to be in a relegation battle with Udinese and Verona. We'll circle back to those teams as we talk relegation and middle of the table type teams. But
Yeah.
so yeah, right now it is Inter and Juve, as the ones that we've mentioned, with 7 points, very early. So the points can be made up, of course. I'm going AC Milan 3 and Roma 4. So just flopping those. Do you have AC Milan 4 or do you have somebody else?
I will go with AC Milan at 4. I want to hit the brakes, and I mean this almost should be in our introduction, but you mentioned the relegation battle. Without that, it not only like kills any reason to watch a lot of games after a certain amount of games have been played and points have been won. You're just like, well, next year, sorry, you gotta earn your keep. And it's not just like giving reason to watch. It's a heartbeat throughout all the leagues, and without it, it's MLS. It's crap. I'm sorry. You can bring over all these players, and you can pay them whatever you want. You can do whatever Pepsi commercials and whatever. By the way, Pepsi did not endorse us. We're not getting a dime from Pepsi, but
Before we go down this rabbit hole, this is another episode. I know what rabbit hole you're going
there's
on.
a rant. I'm
The
sorry.
promotion relegation rabbit hole. It'll come up. We need to dedicate it. We need to dedicate an entire podcast to that. Let's not go too, because it warrants, it is such a big deal. It warrants its own episode, and let's not dive into that. But yes, you're right. Relegation is massive. And to the point of the strength of the league, I remember we were talking about Serie A having 3 semifinalists in the Champions League, not this year, the previous year. Well, AC Milan turns around from playing against Inter in the semifinals, and they lose to Spezia Calcio, who got relegated. They lost to Spezia Calcio. I think it was at home. It was at Milan. So these teams that get relegated, it's not just a rare thing for them to beat these top dogs. So that speaks to the strength of the league, because everyone wants to say, well, it's hard to win at Stoke, and no, there's evidence that these teams at the bottom of the table compete and beat the teams at the top of the table. Now let's go look at the top of the table. Well, Inter Milan, AC Milan, they beat these teams from other leagues at the top of the table. So it is the most competitive league, which is why it's so hard to make these predictions. AC Milan number 4. And why we have them 4, I mean, they were in the 2 spot last season, solidly in the 2 spot. And they actually made improvements to their squad. They brought in a very, very good center back. If you're looking at it, the stereotypical center back, ball winner, solid player in Pavlovic. They brought in another
Tackler.
They brought in a tackler, great on attacking headers. Already got a goal on a header.
He's very good. I only rate Hummels above him on that.
And then you look at the striker position. They got Morata, and they got Tammy Abraham to back him up. So they shored up their striker. Giroud was not him. They held on to him 1 year too long, I believe. Fofana, we mentioned him already in the center midfield. Who else did they bring in? Emerson Royale.
Terracciano,
Emerson Royale at the right back.
Emerson Royale, and Terracciano on the other. Or no, they're both right backs, I guess.
Yeah. So they had, I mean, and then if we're mentioning their current squad, Pulisic had a great season in his first year. In fact, I saw since he came into the league, I think he's third on goals and assists, third in the entire league on goals and assists. Since he came in, I forget who it was. It must have been I
What?
think it's Cavara and Lautaro Martinez. Since he came into the league, have
Yeah.
more goals and assists. Which that's very, very good. I think we both would have AC Milan at the 2 spot if they put Pulisic at the 10,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if they put Pulisic at the 10, I agree. Maybe they even win the league. They're already points behind, but they haven't played. They can make those up because they still play these teams twice. They haven't played any of the teams at the top of the table, which are harder to get points, but they can make points up on them with it.
Right.
They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to. But all indications are that they're gonna put that big dumb player in Loftus-Cheek at the 10. He holds onto the ball forever. He misses opportunities, not opportunities to score, but before that, he can't even get the ball off his foot because he's very reactive player. He's not a proactive player. And
Right.
windows are missed. Opportunities are missed to get into a good area, to go at the defense, and get the ball to Leao and Pulisic and your playmakers. It's just missed. It's just missed because he's there.
Yep.
And if he's a 10, they might not make Europe. They might not even make Europa. They might not even make Europa League. If Loftus-Cheek is the 10, Napoli can jump them. Roma, you have jumping them already. Juve, you have jumping them already. Even a Atalanta can jump them. They are in trouble if they keep Loftus-Cheek at the 10. In fact, if they keep Loftus-Cheek at the 10, Fonseca does not make it through Christmas.
Right, because if they have him at the 10, just realistically speaking, Lazio, Fiorentina, Bologna, all these teams could, because that's how important it is to have a 10 be a part of the machine of scoring the goal. And you get it to him, and it's like possessions securing, Like, that's not the area to be doing
2-3-1, so that 10 is a key role. We saw it a little bit in the it's just preseason, but they played some big clubs in preseason, and Pulisic looked great there. Pulisic had a goal and an assist in that I can't remember if it was against it was against Barcelona.
They're okay.
Yeah. They're on to a hot start. But if he's the 10, don't just look to AC Milan to be in one of these Champions League spots. Look for them to compete to win the league. Look for them to make a deep run into the Champions League, and maybe even, if you're talking about betting odds, at plus 4,000, they can go and win the league, the Champions League, with Pulisic or Reinders, or maybe if they bring in one in the January window at the 10. If it's Loftus-Cheek at the 10, write them off. They're done. Not competing to win the league, not competing to win the Champions League. But if they get that right, if they get that one position right, they have all the other pieces. Rafael Leao is a one-of-a-kind player. Teo Hernandez at the left back can drive forward with the ball better than any other left back in the world. We mentioned Pavlovic. Morata is just everywhere he goes.
Tomori next to him ain't no slouch either. Tomori next to him is a fine center.
Correct.
Magnon in goal.
Is a very, very good shot stopping goalie. Top 5 in the world, I put him at.
And then with his feet.
Yeah. I mean, that's top 5 goalie. I'm not just talking about top 5 guys.
Oh, okay. I thought, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't clear on that. So that's AC Milan. Do with that what you want. It's a risk. It's gonna be, I don't know if somebody above Fonseca's winning, Loftus-Cheek at the 10, but my gosh, it's the most misuse out of any team I've watched.
It's glaringly obvious. And it's not because Loftus-Cheek is garbage and Pulisic is the best in the world. It's because they're in the wrong spots if they're not playing Pulisic at the 10 and Loftus-Cheek somewhere else. I would say probably just a double pivot sort of 8.
The thing,
double pivot thing.
he's good at the left wing. He's good at the right wing. He's good at the 10. I'm not saying Pulisic has to be the 10.
Right.
And I'm not a homer. Again, we can talk about Musa. I'm not even calling for Musa to start here. I'm not talking about, we're not just homers here.
He might be my backup 10, though. Sorry to cut you off. It might be Reinders. It's probably Reinders. But it is kind of Reinders is a starter for me at the 8. So I don't like having, okay, time to sub out Pulisic or even move Pulisic to the wing. Reinders to the
with how Reinders plays with the Dutch team. So maybe not versus Venezia because, this weekend because Pulisic's coming back late, so it'll be they might rest him up for their Liverpool game in the Champions League.
Who, Pulisic?
But yeah, because it's coming back from North America. He's got to. I think that's what I'm doing if I have all my guys and looking to win the next game. So like probably against Liverpool, like that big game against Liverpool, I'm putting Reinders at the 10 and Pulisic outright. And with Benacer out of the pivot, maybe Loftus-Cheek starts there. Maybe
force that hand, please, God, force that hand.
And then Fofana at the pivot with Loftus-Cheek, and that's fine. And that's fine if they do that. Those two double pivots aren't the best, but I think Reinders has a great long shot ability. He can downhill dribble. He's kind of like Bruno Fernandes a little bit in his player profile.
Right.
Yeah. So
Danny Olmo. Yeah.
Yeah. Even maybe like Pedri a little bit. He's, very good. Very good. So if they get that right, shoot them up the list. If they get it wrong, bring them down. I think you kind of have them in the middle of the two choices there. They're at a fork in the road. Do they go right? Do they go left? If they get it right, look out. So
I don't even know why you think to play Ruben Loftus-Cheek at the 10. I don't understand it. Like, was he a striker growing up as a kid or something and just is gradually moving further back the pitch or something? I don't understand it. He, for me, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on this Brit's name, but he was a very good passer of the ball, giant 6. He played at like Tottenham. Yeah, I'm just not going to be able to think of his name. Ended up having like an afro later in his career, but he's a big dude. You know, he can shove people off the ball, tackle well, head well enough in defense, and pass the ball well enough. It's just got to be at that much slower, easier rhythm with the field ahead of you and options, but at the 10, he's just not it at all. At the 8, double pivoting with Fofana, he could be very good.
So who do you have 5 then? Number 5 in this Serie A.
Let me see, 1, 2, 3. Golly. I'm going to say jeepers. Napoli or Atalanta? I cannot pick. I want to say Napoli because of the fact that they don't have Europe spreading them thin because they're not in another competition. But, and it's not because they lost Osimhen and now they have Lukaku. I'm not going to even tear down Lukaku one bit. I think he's going to do well there. But I think I'm going to go Atalanta because they kept their coach, and I think he is a big deal there. I don't maybe you had written down what I was saying going into this conversation, but
Nope.
I'm going Atalanta.
We have another disagreement but it's the same 2 that we're disagreeing on. We don't have another team there. So I'm actually going Napoli, because they've kept so many of their pieces. They've made moves. They got a proven coach. He's new, but he's proven, and Conte. They picked up Buongiorno. They got Romani back there. Rachmani. They picked up Spinazzola. Di Lorenzo, on the other side. They picked up Billy Gilmore. They picked up McTominay. They picked up David Neres. They have Politano. Like you mentioned, Lukaku up top. Raspadori can play the 10, or the second striker. And then they got Simeone as a backup. I might have them too low.
I
I
know.
might have them
I
too
know.
low. Like
I don't even know if you mentioned Anguissa and Lobotka, but
yeah, Anguissa and Lavaca as well. Yeah, exactly. It's
this league is stacked, bro. This league is stacked.
and Rafa Marin they picked up from Real Madrid, another center back. They they don't have to play in Europe, so they get to just solely focus on the league like Juve did last year, and that helped Juve, as bad as they were, finish third. If Juve had to do Europe too, they probably didn't make they probably wouldn't have made Champions League this year. I'm just gonna say they wouldn't have. So Napoli will not be stretched thin. That's why I have them 5.
Yeah.
Did I change your mind at all?
Yes. Because they are stacked. They're deep. Juan Jesus, center back. I actually pulled up their thing here. I don't like their goalie. I mean, he's not garbage, Alex Merritt, but yeah, Giovanni Simeone's a backup striker. But man, if Spinazzola is anything what he was, God, what was that? 2 Euros ago?
Yeah, not this last year. It was the one before. He was key to the Italians lifting the trophy.
He was certainly key. Once he went out, they went out.
Well, they won.
He went down with an
They
injury.
won. They won without him, but they went to
Oh,
penalties versus England. But yeah, they did struggle
okay.
more. If they had him, they don't need penalties, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was on Roma then, I believe. Best left back in the world at that time, if you ask me. Just
Yep.
that inverted left back was coming on big in those Euros. Mela did it for Denmark too, Joachim Mela. But there was one other guy, I believe, inverted left back. But
That Euro squad too. He subbed in at the right back and kind of made a name for himself outside of the Italian window of people looking at the Italians. So you have Napoli.
I think I'm going to keep it where I got it. I think I'm going to keep Atalanta above Napoli. God. Yeah, I'm gonna switch it. It could go either way though, but I'm gonna put Napoli above Atalanta. I think though that Spinazzola is gonna have to be his old self, and we'll
I'm
see.
actually going to make a curveball here. So we have Napoli 5. We've covered them. Look for them to even jump up above. I mean, they can make a run at the title here. I think any of these top 5 teams can make a run at the title here. And for me,
Certainly.
that's where I'm going to draw a line because I think that's where the line happens. I don't think any team, no, I'm not saying these are definitely the top 5 teams, but if the things fall their way and they get the things right, that any team can compete to win this league. Any of those 5 teams. I'm drawing a line. I'm drawing a line on the table because Atalanta, as good as their coach is, they've lost.
How long is Scalvini out?
He's out. He's out till at least Christmas. And
You know what's crazy? I'm looking at their lineup. He's out till Christmas. You said it doesn't say how long here, but
he
to me,
tore his
see that
ACL.
center.
He tore his ACL in the Euros. He's out for quite a bit, man. At best,
Jim Citi?
Scalvini. Wait
Okay.
a second.
Jim Citi's out.
Expected return November 19th. I don't see that. I see after Christmas.
This is my first time even seeing the dude and just profiling his appearance. Yeah, he's going to be good. Just looking at him. Jim Citi, though, he's out. Kolasinac is out.
He was higher in the pecking order than Calafiore before the Euros, if that tells you something. So he is very well regarded.
Man.
He is, he was huge to Atalanta's success. Again, they went and run Europa League. Atalanta has arguably the best coach in the world because this guy has done it time and time again. With more losing players, they're kind of the Italian Dortmund here. To where they bring in the young players and they sell them off. They sold Coop Miners, which I think this is why I have them down. They lost Scalvini. They lost Scamacca. Now they did bring in Retegui to replace Scamacca. During with the time he's injured, he's out with an ACL. Maybe they go double striker at that point. And they can lift it up, but that's too long of the season to make a run at it here.
They could go double striker before that with Lookman.
They did bring in Bellanova. Look for him from Torino. They brought in, They brought in some other player, Brescianini, who made his
Brescianini,
Italian debut. They brought him in. Quadrado, they brought in. De Cantalare, Nicolo Zaniolo, Retegui. So
yeah.
they've made some good off-season moves. I don't think it's enough when we're looking there at the top. And I'm actually, because they're playing in Champions League, this is a bold move here. I'm not going to have them number 6. I'm actually going to put them number 7. But
Moving up Bologna.
Nope.
Fiorentina.
Fiorentina, but we'll go to them next. Do you have anything to add with Atalanta?
Yeah, they brought in the Portuguese number 1, Rui Patricio. That said, I don't think he's that fantastic of a goalkeeper. Also, a note on Zaniolo, who you mentioned, attacking midfielder, was playing at Roma. I think he had a brief stint in England. For anyone watching EPL, you would probably say I'm wrong here, but I think it was
Zaniolo, he was at Galatasaray last. But yes, I do remember him in England as well.
Really?
I can't remember.
I think he went to Villa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was at Galatasaray, huh? But Ademola Lookman is a beast.
He was at Villa. He was at Villa.
Yeah, Zaniolo?
Yeah, and he was at Roma. He was at Roma too. Yep, we're right on all of it.
Look, when he was at Roma, good things were happening, and because of his profile, like an attacking midfielder, I know Zidane ended up going out wide and lost the step, and I'm not really comparing him to Zidane, but it's that bigger guy to come late into the box, and it's hard to deal with that when you're a smaller center midfielder having to mark that, So it's potential that he can create some issues there. I do like their wide play, Zappacosta, Quadrado, Ederson at center midfield. A lot of people were chasing him. I remember, I think Liverpool was thinking about signing him, kind of a 6. But yeah, they got him too, and I think you mentioned everything else. I just wanted to highlight
Gasparini is the big reason you would pick them. He went to Anfield, which is supposedly, for you English fans, supposedly impossible to go win at, and he spanked them 3-0, I believe. And that wasn't the first time. He's won there twice now with a smaller market team. I've been to Bergamo. It's not a big area. It's not a big city. So what he's doing in Atalanta is very impressive. And the only reason I'm putting them down a peg is because they're in Champions League and they've lost some players and they've had some injury issues already. When you're this young into the season and you're starting with injury issues, you're kind of behind the 8 ball already.
Yeah, their injuries: Scalvini, center back; Jimsiti, center back; Kolasinac, center back; Suleimana, defensive midfield; and Scamacca at striker.
Right. So I actually have Fiorentina, and for the number one reason I have Fiorentina is for my number one signing this transfer market. Maybe Mats Hummels puts a damper on that one because he's free, but Goodmanson. Albert Goodmanson is a name you guys all need to know. He does have a calf problem, so he is day to day, week to week, game to game, but he will be a massive piece for Fiorentina. They sold Nico Gonzalez to Juventus and replaced him with somebody better. In my opinion, he's up there with Kvara, Mo Salah, Haaland as the players from these countries that have zero chance of winning the World Cup. I am that big on this player. He's already 27 years old, which is crazy that people don't know about him, but man, the kid can play. I guess he's not a kid. Was massive for Genoa last season as a 10. They have him as second striker. He can play the second striker. He can play the 10. He even has the player profile. He can play the winger. Very, very good on the ball.
But he's hurt.
He's day to day. He's not out. He's not out long. Okay. Yeah. He's not bad. They brought in Moise Kean. which we talked about.
Moise Kean.
We talked about already. Gosens, they brought in Gosens. I have Fiorentina at the 6th spot. Adley from AC Milan.
Yassine Adley.
Yeah.
Waiting for you to get to him. They brought in David De Gea too in goal.
Yep. Baraghi. They have Baraghi.
They got Baraghi?
Yes. And people that don't know Fiorentina, they back-to-back Conference League, finals appearances. They lost to, Olympiacos this last time in the final. I can't remember who they lost to the time before. But it's a bold pick. I don't know how I feel about it, but I have them at 6. Where do you have Fiorentina?
It was Atalanta 5.
Yes.
Yeah. And
No. Napoli was 5. You had Atalanta 6.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, I guess I got Atalanta 6 and Fiorentina 7. But you refer to Atalanta as becoming sort of the Dortmund of the Italian league, and how they keep players briefly and then sell them often to their rivals and still produce results. I think traditionally for me over the years, Fiorentina has been that, like, ever since the days of Batistuta at Fiorentina. It's been, they don't keep anybody for very long.
Chiesa is another one. Mo Salah is another. I mean, Mo Salah did not go within the league, but yeah, Chiesa went to a rival. Yep. Yeah, I agree, but I'm looking at the squad, and they are in Europe. They are in Conference League again. So they do have to compete in Europe. And actually it's actually a day later, being on Thursdays. So maybe that's less rest. So maybe it's dumb. But they have 99% ownership in Rocco Commisso, who was, the New York Cosmos owner, and chairman. Couldn't get into the top division, in the United States because of the monopoly MLS has. So he said, screw it, I'm taking my money. And he bought Fiorentina, has put a lot of money in that. He's got a new training ground, new for the youth academy, and for the, women's stadium. So he's investing a lot of money into Florence. And I think he's just continued to inch them forward into the Italian league, into the Italian culture.
Yeah, and the more of a highlight in what they are. Where did Amrabat go?
The Galatasaray, Fenerbahce.
Yeah, I remembered it being Turkish league.
Yeah, he went to Turkey. So we've already been going on for about an hour and a half here. So the other top teams that can push for Europe, you have any?
I don't know enough about Torino, but they got Ricci.
Torino, they have Ricci, they have Zapata up top. They are a good team. They can definitely.
Oh, they got Duvan Zapata.
Yes, yeah. They can definitely.
Milinkovic Savic.
They can. Yes, yep. They can definitely. Goal. They put it to Milan a little bit in the first game, but who hasn't this year so far? So Torino is one that can compete. We've mentioned them briefly. We don't got to go too in depth.
Che Adams is there for all you Englishmen. Che Adams, the Scottish striker.
Lazio, if you remember, they beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League on leg 1. We haven't mentioned them. They're in the Europa League. They got looking here, Gundeze, people that know him, but they got a good striker in, Tati Castellanos, the Argentine, 25-year-old, very good striker.
Is he really Argentinian? I thought Castellanos was, okay. Oh, Tati Castellanos. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a Castellanos that's, Belgian.
Look for them to be in the running for Europe. And we didn't mention Bologna. I guess we should talk about them because they are in the Champions League. I look for them to get annihilated. They're going to be they've lost their coach. We've mentioned all the players that they've lost. I mean, we mentioned the big ones that they've lost. I don't think they compete to make Europe. In fact, I think they're closer to relegation than they will be to Europe this season.
That said, I just clicked them real quick. They're sitting on 45 million surplus, so they'll probably, make some moves if things are in, the right standing at that time.
But they got to make it to January. They're sitting on 2 points. They're sitting on 2 points already.
2 points.
Right now so is Roma and Milan as well, but,
I know. You'd hope to be sitting on 5,
Yeah, so I don't look for them to compete. When I'm looking for other teams to make a run, I think we hit everybody. Let's jump down to the bottom of the table. Who you got getting relegated?
That's your Empoli's. But who's got the points out of the bottom? Empoli and
Empoli's at 5. Udinese's at 7. Parma's at 4. Genoa's at 4. Lecce's at 3. Monza's at 2. Cagliari's at 2. Como's at 1. Venezia's at 1.
Where's Verona?
Verona's near the top. Verona's at 6.
6, yeah. So I think for that reason, I'm going to keep Verona and Udinese out of that.
I don't think the points matter that much when you look at. We talked about the leagues; they're not getting relegated with 22 points. Yeah. They're getting relegated with like 35 points.
Yeah.
You want my
Cagliari no longer has Ranieri.
Ranieri is out. They got Lampadula. They got Lampadula, the Peruvian. I like him. I'm going to go watching Parma counterattack. Watching how they counterattack, they will be safe. I don't even think they'll get even dragged down too far into the relegation battle. I think they'll be a solid mid-table team. So look for them to be out of that.
I'm keeping Cagliari out. I looked at their.
Yep.
They got the mayor in the.
I think they'll get dragged down into the rate, but I think they'll be safe. Yeah. I think Monza will be safe. I think Bologna will be dragged down into the race a little bit. I think Venezia will be into the relegation battle all year long. I think Como will be into the relegation battle all year long. Although they spent top 10 in the league, and they'll spend more if they need to in January.
Is it the case that Monza is managed by Alessandro Nesta?
Good question.
I believe they are.
Yes.
So,
yeah. And for people that are a little bit younger or don't know, brilliant center back, legendary center back, smart player.
If you don't know Nesta,
he's Calafiore.
Don't hang up on the podcast.
He's Calafiore.
No, Maldini's Calafiore.
Okay. So
Nesta was a great market.
I think Monza's not in the. I think my team. I'm going to go Empoli, Lecce, and man, I watched Verona. They weren't bad. I'm going to go Verona.
Yeah.
Or not Verona, but Venezia. Sorry, Venezia. No, Genoa.
Lecce.
Genoa's lost too much. They lost Goodmanson. They're at 4 points already. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to go Genoa's going down, Lecce's going down, and Empoli's going down. That's my count.
And I'll go Lecce, Empoli, and I think it's between Venezia and Genoa, perhaps, based on what you were saying here. I'm trying to pull them up. I think I'm going to go with Genoa's already got 4.
It's only a couple points.
Yeah, I know it. I'm going to drop Venezia.
Yeah.
Not Genoa. Yeah. I mean,
I did watch Venezia and they looked pretty good. Well, let's, I think we've gone long enough. What is it? An hour and 40 minutes or so. We're going to do this weekly for all of you guys that are listening. We're going to do this weekly. The next one will be, of course, next week, and we'll recap a little bit of the Israel game. There's going to be, Serie A action to recap. And hopefully AC Milan's who I'm going to be rooting for. So hopefully we have some good news to report that Loftus-Cheek will not be at the 10 when we circle back next week. Anything to add here before we, hang it up?
It would be betting if so. Some quick odds. France at home is -1 and Belgium's +3, so you could get triple your money for Belgium to go and do what Italy just did. But no, on the Italian front, God, we covered it all, except a little bit more of why we're so into the Italian league. I mean, it's kind of not even close as far as the leagues go. We are on the Italian league for a reason. It's parrotive, I think is a word. There's a lot of parody, and it's a very good watch. And I'm real interested. Like, it's crazy to see Inter Milan playing that style, and then it transferred over to the National League team. Like, how many other clubs are we going to see? It might be an Italian revolution.
Well, that's always what they say is, hey, when you try to coach a national team, you don't have the time because you're only getting the players in, a couple of days before their game, that you don't have the time to get a complex system in. Well, Spalletti got that system in, so it works it works. So yeah, man, I think you're right. I think it is an Italian revolution, Italian revolution of for Calcio.
Yep. Because of the injuries today, and the odds that they gave Italy, they're -3. Israel's home and they're +750.
Well, they're kind of home. It is in Hungary because of the war.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Home is asterisk. It's in Hungary because they can't play in Israel right now for obvious reasons. But yeah, I'm probably gonna stay away from it today because the odds are reflecting of the situation. But against France, it was the perfect time to put that.
I don't see Italy not getting 3 points though.
I know.
I mean, I think,
but
I
you betting a house on that to get
no. The odds aren't good for you bettors. The odds aren't. You're not getting
you bet one house, you get one.
Yeah, you're not getting a return. And I think the next podcast, so the next one we're gonna dive down into the Champions League too, and maybe even Europa League and Conference League a little bit, because there are so many Italian teams with that extra spot, with Atalanta getting the Champions League win, or not the Europa League win and getting in. I think there's a lot to cover in Europe before next week's Champions League games, including the big one, Inter Milan versus Man City. We're going to dive very, very deep into that. Put your money in Inter Milan. They are not getting respected. So we'll dive in and tell you why, and just get your,
and you'll see that we don't just watch Italian. Like, we can speak towards everything that City's got, Doku and everybody across the front line with Haaland and the kid there, the lefty,
and then picking up Gundogan, and we follow European soccer very, very strongly. We're just talking more about the Italian perspective because it is underappreciated, under talked about,
and resurgent to where, maybe they will be talking about it, but it's just a shame that they have to win the final thing, and if they get knocked out by the Atleti Madrids of the world, they just get, frowned and not looked upon kindly and all that.
And again, it was their second striker when Thuram went down was the reason, right? That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And that's the reason. And then we talked about the Man City one. We'll talk about that more in depth of how they didn't even lift the trophy the last time because they were so close. But, we'll, again, we're going to do this weekly. And we'll, see you guys next time.
Yeah, once a week. I think this time we did it Monday. The days will rotate. So, it'll generally be early morning recording, I think.
Early morning, United States Eastern time, that is.
Yeah.
All right, Calcio.
The Il Calcio.
Calcio.
The Calcio potatoes. Episode 1. Cut.
See ya.
Yep, later.